In today's video, we explore lesser-known chapters FRM the lives of 19 African-American LGBTQ+ artists, whose journeys ended in ways often remembered as some of the most heartbreaking in Hollywood history. Many of them navigated their creative paths within a world that struggled to understand their full identities. Several stories may leave you questioning long-held assumptions and asking, is that really who they were? Were you aware that a rock and roll icon once entered a sudden marriage, only to find himself caught in a quiet web of emotional betrayal? Or that certain artists departed this world in profound isolation, marked by painful distance even within their own families? Beneath the iconic songs and celebrated careers rest hidden truths, long overlooked, deeply human, and only now brought into the light. If you believe these stories are worth bringing into the conversation, feel free to leave a 1 in the comments below. If you see things differently or have reflections of your own, you're welcome to share them with a 0. Your voice matters here. And if this content resonates with you, remember to like, share, and subscribe to help the channel continue exploring meaningful narratives. Now, let's move forward and uncover the story together. Langston Hughes, a towering figure of the Harlem Renaissance, gifted the world enduring works such as The Weary Blues in 1926, shaping literature with rhythm, resilience, and soul. Yet beneath the eloquence of his poetry and the strength of his public voice existed a private interior rarely spoken of. Throughout his life, Hughes carried a profound emotional attachment to Countee Cullen, a bond rooted in closeness and deep admiration, felt quietly and held with care. It was a connection shaped by its time, one that could live only in subtle gestures and unspoken understanding, never finding space in the open world Hughes so powerfully described through his art. One spring evening in 1943, during a gathering filled with writers and thinkers, Langston and Countee shared a quiet exchange layered with feeling and unspoken meaning. Yet the night took an unexpected turn when Langston stepped away and witnessed a scene that quietly unraveled his inner world. Countee standing close beside a woman, their connection unmistakable. In that instant, something deeply personal slipped beyond Langston's reach. A mixture of loss, confusion, and profound isolation settled heavily within him, leaving him without words or refuge. From that night forward, even as Langston Hughes's public achievements continued to rise, a lasting shadow remained. Beneath every success and every carefully crafted line of poetry lived a sense of longing unfulfilled, as though the absence of a love he could never claim had drained color from his victories. The weight of quiet sorrow followed him through the years, shaping an inner struggle that never fully released its hold. As his health gradually weakened during a prolonged illness, Langston Hughes passed away on May 22, 1967, in quiet isolation. There was no final witness to his last moments, only the echo of unfinished lines and dreams left unresolved. In the years that followed, whispers emerged about a hidden collection of poems, said to contain expressions of affection that hinted at truths he had never spoken aloud. Those pages, however, were swiftly set aside, preserved from public view in an effort to safeguard the legacy he had carefully shaped. Langston Hughes's story extends beyond literary brilliance. It stands as a reflection on love left unvoiced and the cost of carrying truth in silence. Beneath the rhythm of his verses lies a life marked by restraint and devotion, reminding us that while journeys may remain incomplete, art possesses a quiet power to reveal what the world was not yet ready. Melvin Dixon, widely regarded as one of the most influential and visionary writers of his era, made an enduring contribution to Black LGBTQ+ literature. Through poetry and prose, he gave shape to experiences often pushed to the margins, transforming personal struggle into collective reflection and quiet resistance against both racial injustice and social exclusion. Yet beyond his literary achievements, Melvin's life carried a more fragile undercurrent. Behind the recognition and intellectual acclaim unfolded a deeply human story marked by separation, unfulfilled connection, and persistent solitude, reminding us that even the strongest voices can carry unseen weight beneath their words. The bond Melvin Dixon once shared with Richard Howard slowly unraveled as illness took its toll, and with it, much of the strength he relied on to endure. As his body weakened, an even heavier burden emerged when distance grew between him and those he had trusted, leaving him to face his final struggle largely alone. Surrounded by silence, he carried both physical hardship and emotional isolation, continuing to write with honesty even as his words were met with indifference and quiet resistance within academic circles. On October 26, 1992, as autumn settled gently outside his window, Melvin Dixon passed away in complete solitude, without witnesses, without parting words. What remained was an unfinished legacy, including a final manuscript set aside for being too direct, too revealing for its time. His story endures as a reflection of truth spoken too early, and of a voice that continued to speak even when the world chose not to listen. Melvin Dixon's journey reflects not only extraordinary creative ability, but also a sobering lesson about distance, neglect, and the fragile nature of recognition. The silence that surrounded his final years reveals how easily admiration can fade when truth becomes uncomfortable. His quiet departure stands as a broader reflection of the challenges faced by many within the LGBTQ+ community, lives shaped by resilience and contribution, yet too often overlooked, misread, or left without the understanding they deserved from the world around them. Essex Hemphill, a gifted poet of the 1980s, offered the world writing that was both intimate and unflinching, capturing the depth of his inner conflicts and emotional truth. His poetry often echoed with longing, shaped by an affection that could never be fully lived in the open. At the center of that unspoken tenderness was Marlon Riggs, a visionary filmmaker who shared not only Essex's creative spirit, but also his lived realities. Their bond carried intensity and promise, rooted in mutual understanding. Yet forces far beyond their control, illness, social fear, and collective silence, slowly fractured what they hoped to protect, leaving behind verses marked by love interrupted and dreams left unfinished. After Marlon's passing in 1994, Essex found himself surrounded by a silence that felt all-consuming, as physical hardship and emotional weight quietly merged into his daily existence. His writing grew more introspective and somber, carrying a depth shaped by loss and unspoken grief. Rather than seeking relief from the world around him, Essex turned inward, allowing his words to hold what could not be openly expressed. On November 4, 1995, at the age of 38, Essex Hemphill passed away quietly, with no witness to his final moments and no chance for a goodbye. What remained were unfinished poems and fragments of thought, works that stand not only as reflections of his own inner struggle, but also as enduring testimony to the resilience and suffering of the LGBTQ+ community during a period marked by fear, silence, and misunderstanding. Sex. Hemphill's journey stands as a quiet lesson in devotion, absence, and endurance during a time overshadowed by fear and silence. It affirms the ability of art to carry emotions that history often refuses to name, giving form to stories left unspoken. At the same time, it reminds us of lives and connections that existed beyond acceptance. Voices pushed aside, affections denied, and individuals whose truths were overlooked by a world not yet ready to listen. Marsha P. Johnson stands as a luminous figure in the history of the LGBTQ+ movement, remembered for her unwavering compassion and lifelong commitment to those pushed to society's edges. Born in 1945, Marsha lived with remarkable courage, becoming not only a transgender woman living openly in an unwelcoming era, but also a driving force behind early liberation efforts. As a founding voice within the Gay Liberation Front, and later the Street Transvestite Action Revolutionaries, STAR, she worked closely with Sylvia Rivera to advocate for transgender people, unhoused youth, and others often left without protection or recognition. In the face of constant exclusion and hardship, Marsha remained guided by generosity, hope, and an enduring belief in community, qualities that continue to inspire long after her time. Yet behind Marsha's radiant smile and unshakable resolve existed long stretches of solitude and the quiet ache of being pushed to society's margins. Though she stood as a pioneer and a fearless advocate, her daily reality was shaped by hardship. Years marked by financial insecurity, constant scrutiny, and repeated rejection. These struggles were woven into her journey as deeply as her acts of courage. On the night of July 6, 1992, Marsha P. Johnson vanished under circumstances that have never been fully clarified. Her body was later discovered in the Hudson River near the Christopher Street Pier, a place rich with meaning for New York's LGBTQ+ history. Authorities at the time classified her passing as a self-inflicted tragedy, yet many within the community felt unsettled, sensing that crucial questions remained unanswered. The uncertainty surrounding her final moments has endured, leaving behind not accusations but a lingering sense of loss and reflection, an unresolved chapter in the life of someone who gave everything to protect others. Marsha P. Johnson was not only left on the margins of society, but also failed by systems meant to offer safety and care. Her passing represented more than the loss of a historic figure. It became a solemn reminder that the journey toward dignity and equality for the LGBTQ+ community remains unfinished. Even today, her name endures as a symbol of resistance and compassion, held close by those who continue to seek justice and belonging. Marsha's legacy lives on as a quiet lesson in inner strength, unwavering resilience, and the courage required to stand firm in a world shaped by constant challenges and barriers. Willie Ninja, the visionary founder of the House of Ninja and a trailblazer in the world of dance, transformed voguing into a powerful form of expression long before it reached mainstream recognition through global pop culture. His influence reshaped movement, identity, and performance, leaving an undeniable imprint on generations that followed. Yet despite the reach of his legacy and the doors he helped open, Willie rarely experienced the recognition or security his impact deserved. As a defining figure within both dance culture and the LGBTQ+ community, his path was marked by persistent barriers, unseen struggles, and a constant effort to survive in spaces that celebrated his art more readily than his humanity. Willie Ninja's journey was marked by constant struggle rather than comfort or security. Living openly in an industry shaped by rivalry and exclusion, he often faced unfair treatment and was taken advantage of despite his brilliance. Although his creativity and vision helped define an entire movement, true recognition rarely reached him in tangible ways. While his influence echoed across stages and screens, his personal reality remained fragile, defined by financial hardship, limited access to care, and ongoing health challenges. His life reveals the painful contrast between cultural impact and personal survival, reminding us how easily pioneers can be celebrated in theory, yet overlooked in practice. In 2006, at the age of 45, Willie Ninja passed away in his modest New York home following severe health complications after years without consistent access to proper medical support. His passing marked a profound loss, not only for the dance world, but for the broader LGBTQ+ community that had drawn strength and identity from his work. While recognition often failed to reach him during his lifetime, his influence did not fade. Voguing continues to carry his spirit forward, through movement, posture, and creative expression echoed on dance floors around the world. Each performance reflects his vision, preserving his name as a lasting presence in both art and culture. Willie Ninja's life remains a powerful reflection of endurance and devotion, showing how true impact can outlive recognition and continue to inspire long after the spotlight has moved on. James Baldwin, born in 1924, stands among the most influential writers of the 20th century, remembered for works such as The Fire Next Time and Another Country. As a black man and an openly gay thinker, he reshaped literature by fearlessly examining race, identity, and the invisible boundaries imposed by society. Yet acclaim and recognition never fully shielded him from personal struggle. For much of his life, Baldwin lived under intense institutional scrutiny and social suspicion, simply for existing outside accepted norms in an era resistant to difference. Along his path, he encountered barriers not only in public life, but also within the literary world itself, where his ideas were frequently challenged, constrained, or deemed unsettling. Still, through his writing, Baldwin illuminated the depths of human vulnerability, giving voice to those pushed to the margins and revealing the quiet suffering of individuals navigating a world built to exclude them. By the end of 1987, weakened by a long illness, Baldwin passed away quietly in his home in Saint-Paul-de-Vence, France. Though his work had reached extraordinary heights and his voice was recognized across the world, the heaviest burden he carried was not physical decline, but a lifelong sense of distance and unfinished freedom. In his final moments, there were no close relatives beside him, only a small circle of fellow artists, whose presence could not fully ease the deep solitude that had followed him for so long. His passing underscored a truth that echoed throughout his writing, that recognition does not always bring peace, and that even the most powerful voices can leave the world still yearning to be fully understood. In the years following his passing, accounts emerged suggesting that Baldwin may have left reflections pointing to a lifetime shaped by observation and restraint, underscoring how limited true freedom felt for him despite his public stature. Whether preserved in letters or memory, these ideas echo a broader truth about the era in which he lived, one marked by caution, silence, and boundaries imposed on those who dared to live openly. Yet Baldwin's influence did not end with his final days. His writing continues to resonate as a powerful affirmation of the individual voice, challenging prejudice, isolation, and injustice with clarity and moral force. He remains more than a literary figure. He stands as a symbol of endurance, meeting adversity with insight, conviction, and deep humanity. His life offers a lasting lesson in bravery, sincerity, and the quiet sacrifices made in the ongoing pursuit of dignity, freedom, and equality for all. Audre Lorde, born in 1934 in New York, emerged as a poet, writer, and activist, whose voice became foundational to feminist and LGBTQ+ thought. While her work left an indelible imprint on literature and social discourse, Her personal life unfolded with a quieter weight, especially in the realm of affection. For many years, Lorde carried a profound emotional bond with Frances Clayton, a respected figure within feminist circles. Bound by the limitations of her era and the ever-present risk of exclusion, she chose silence over exposure. This unspoken connection, never formally acknowledged, became both a quiet source of creative energy and a private wound, shaping the intensity and depth that flowed through her poetry. In October 1989, as illness gradually narrowed her world, Audre Lorde spent her final creative hours close to the woman who held a lasting place in her heart. Within the quiet walls of a New York hospital, she continued to write, verses shaped like farewells, filled with yearning and unresolved emotion. After her passing, those final writings were set aside, kept from view out of concern for how they might be interpreted beyond their time. Years later, in 1992, following a long struggle with serious illness, Audre Lorde passed away at the age of 58. She spent her last moments in a home on St. Croix, looking out toward the open sea, leaving this world softly, carrying with her a love that remained largely unspoken, yet deeply present to the very end. Audre Lorde's life unfolded as a path shaped by hardship, yet sustained by extraordinary inner resolve. Through her words, she confronted injustice, challenged exclusion, and spoke boldly against systems built on silence and inequality. The quieter chapters of her story, though rarely acknowledged, continue to resonate with those who seek dignity and self-determination. Her legacy reminds us that even when affection remains unseen or unnamed, authenticity has a lasting force, one that endures through ideas, courage, and the truths carried forward by the work we leave behind. Lorraine Hansberry, the gifted African-American playwright and author of A Raisin in the Sun, secured her place in American theater as a voice of aspiration and the longing for dignity. At only 34, while standing at the height of her creative power, a quiet illness began to erode her strength, narrowing her days one by one. In a modest New York apartment in 1965, Lorraine remained at her desk, surrounded by unfinished pages that bore witness to visions not yet realized. Though her life unfolded far too briefly, the works shaped by honesty and resolve continue to endure. Lorraine's story reminds us that the glow of art often burns most intensely when circumstances are at their darkest, illuminating paths long after the artist is gone. Few are aware that Lorraine quietly aligned herself with circles advocating for the dignity and recognition of LGBTQ+ lives, an act of quiet bravery in an era shaped by fear and rigid boundaries. Beneath the acclaim of the stage existed a solitary inner world, one that longed for authenticity yet learned restraint. She poured her devotion into stories of justice and liberation, choosing discretion over exposure in her personal life. Each line she crafted carried an unspoken breath, reflecting the tension of a woman creating visions of freedom while living within the limits imposed by her time. In her final days, Lorraine's strength slowly faded, each breath uneven, like a melody left unresolved. As she drifted toward rest, she held close an unsent letter, a quiet expression of affection that had never found its moment in the open world. When the letter was later destroyed, more than ink and paper disappeared. A fragment of her inner life was gently but irrevocably sealed away. That winter in New York felt especially harsh, the pale walls around her closing in as if marking the end of a brief yet radiant presence, one that dimmed not from lack of brilliance, but from time ending too soon. Josephine Baker, the iconic African-American performer, dancer, singer, actress, and civil rights advocate, enchanted Paris with her boundless artistry and radiant spirit. For decades, she embodied liberation and dignity, holding firm to the belief that creativity could rise above division and injustice. In April 1975, beneath the glittering lights of Paris, Josephine stepped onto the stage for her final performance at a celebration honoring her extraordinary journey. The lights shimmered, the music pulsed, and every movement echoed the devotion of an artist who had given 50 years to her craft. As the final note faded and the curtain closed, the hall erupted in unbroken applause, a graceful and fitting farewell, offered by those who had witnessed her brilliance. That evening, Josephine returned to her modest apartment, physically drained yet inwardly fulfilled. The soft glow of Paris filtered through the window, resting gently on the face of a woman who had poured her entire existence into expression and movement. Over the years, whispers followed her. She never confirmed nor denied them. She chose silence as her sanctuary, allowing whatever she held closest to live quietly within her. That unspoken tenderness surfaced not in words, but in the pauses between gestures, in the lingering emotion of a final note, perceptible only to those attuned enough to truly listen. At first light, in a room surrounded by flowers and messages of admiration, Josephine suddenly collapsed after a severe medical crisis. When help arrived, a quiet detail was discovered among her belongings, a time-worn photograph tucked away, capturing a tender moment shared backstage, an image she had carried privately through decades of acclaim. As she slipped into rest, the roaring applause that once followed her performances faded into stillness, leaving behind the calm expression of an artist whose life had been wholly devoted to the glow of the stage and the truths she chose to express only through art. Sylvia Rivera, born in 1951 in New York, emerged as one of the earliest and most courageous voices in the struggle for LGBTQ+ rights, especially for transgender people at a time when simply existing outside rigid norms could mean complete social erasure. She was not merely an observer of history, but a force within it, someone who dared to spark resistance amid fear, silence, and exclusion. In an era shaped by prejudice, Sylvia stood at the front lines, transforming vulnerability into defiance and planting the first seeds of change where hope seemed impossible. In 1969, during the upheaval that would later become a turning point in history, Sylvia, alongside her close companion Marsha P. stood visibly present, refusing silence and insisting on dignity for those the world chose not to see. From that moment on, she dedicated her life to building refuge and care for unhoused LGBTQ+ youth, many of whom had been turned away by their own families. Every effort Sylvia made was never only for herself, but for countless young lives left without protection or voice. Yet the path of a pioneer is rarely gentle. As the movement she helped ignite slowly gained broader acceptance, Sylvia found herself pushed to the margins once more, labeled as inconvenient, misunderstood, and excluded from spaces she had once helped create. In her later years, she lived with fragile health and limited means, moving through temporary rooms across New York, places where recognition felt distant and the city's brightness never quite reached. Her story reflects the quiet cost of standing first, when progress arrives, but those who paved the way are left behind. In February 2002, within the quiet halls of St. Vincent Hospital, she softly spoke Marsha's name, the one companion who had stood beside her through life's fiercest trials. There were no ceremonies, no public tributes, only a stillness that marked the passing of a resolute spirit. Sylvia Rivera's life came to a close, Yet what she left behind was far from silent. A lingering spark of courage, a call for dignity and freedom, and a path forged for those who would continue the journey she began. As you reflect on these journeys, what emotions surface within you? Quiet sorrow, lingering questions, or a deep sense of empathy? Everyone experiences these stories differently, and your perspective matters. Feel free to share your thoughts in the comments below. And if you'd like to continue discovering voices and lives that history has often overlooked, remember to follow along so these silent legacies can keep finding the space they deserve to be heard.